Welcome to Inside Marketing with MarketSurge, your front row seat to the boldest ideas and smartest strategies in the marketing game. Your host is Reed Hansen, Chief Growth Officer at MarketSurge.
Hello and welcome back to Inside Marketing with MarketSurge. Today's guest is a powerhouse in every sense, Jen Peterson. With over 2 decades of experience building transformation across Fortune 100s, startups, and global agencies, Jen has built and led high-performing teams, reimagined customer experiences, and scaled marketing programs that don't just look good on a slide, they actually perform. She's known for bridging the gap between creativity and business outcomes, bringing a rare blend of strategic vision and operational execution. Today, we're diving into what's working right now in marketing, how to lead teams through change without losing momentum, and the kind of hard-earned lessons they definitely don't teach in business school. Jen, we are so glad to have you. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, my pleasure. Well, so I'd love to jump into a little bit of the PR aspect, and my first question is, maybe we could start with like an overview of your thoughts on PR. How do you balance being proactive in PR versus being reactive? And are those both necessary efforts, or is one enough?
They are definitely both necessary. Everything starts with knowing who your audience is and what your story is, and having everybody on the team know that same thing. So you're all providing the same message out there. And you do that by being proactive. You train your team, you develop story points, you develop your own marketing talks and messaging on your own platforms, your website, your email, whatever it might be. But things happen and you have to be proactive or reactive. And to do that, you have to be proactive, which is you have to create a plan. So one of the things that I work with clients a lot on is the what if scenarios and creating that plan. So what's the worst that can happen? Figure out what that is. Maybe if you are an online business, it's that your server crashes right as you're launching your brand new product. And so how are you going to react to that? Who's going to be the spokesperson? What are the talking points? Who are we going to reach out to? And again, backing up, that goes a little bit more to proactive as well, which is building those relationships with your target audience and your target media. So if your audience is primarily on Instagram, you want to make sure your Instagram is flawless and that you know how to get things up there quickly and who's going to be monitoring that and responding in real time. If your audience is a Good Morning America watcher, you want to make sure that you have contacts at Good Morning America that you can call when this happens. And take it from there, the Cracker Barrel fiasco is a perfect example of that. They were all over Good Morning America. Somebody has a great connection there, both when they launched it and when it flopped.
Interesting. So, I'm sure you're a watcher of many of these like high profile PR incidents. Yeah. And I'd love to hear your take on this and more, but maybe let's talk a little bit about traditional PR. So is it still effective, or do you feel that in light of all the changes with AI and the constant, these social media platforms that pop up and how those affect is traditional PR still effective, still necessary? How do we adjust?
So the basics of it are, you still need to know how to tell a story. You still need to know who is your audience and where are they going to connect with you. You still need to know how to reach the right contacts at those different outlets, whether it's a TikToker or it's a mainstream media, it doesn't matter. The bigger issue is, honestly, the amount of mainstream media has collapsed. And so your number of outlets to reach has reduced. Meanwhile, your number of individuals has increased. And so finding the right ones and building those relationships with the right ones for your brand are really, really important. A traditional media release, in my opinion, aside from investor relations, it's not really that necessary. it doesn't do a lot for you. Knowing how to craft a pitch to the right target writer or producer is way more important. And having your visuals lined up, having your talking points lined up, way more important than being able to write and send a media release on a wire.
Okay. Okay. That's very helpful. Um, question popped in my head as you were talking. And when we last met, we talked a little bit about this very fascinating story about the astronomer and CEO and head of HR that were caught at the Coldplay concert. Now, I think that was another good example of effective PR, reactive PR. Um, do you think that there's this phrase, this maxim people will repeat, all PR is good PR? I don't know. Do you think that's true or possible? I mean,
Well, I
what are
don't
your
think
thoughts?
that the CEO and the head of HR agree with that right now.
Right, right.
I don't necessarily agree.
Okay.
People, especially in the era we live in now with social media, things live online forever. So
Yeah.
it's very hard to move past a big failure like that, um, especially on a personal level. I think brands, you see people's old tweets come up, for example, of where they made racist or sexist comments, 20 years ago, but it comes back up because nothing ever dies really online.
Hmm.
And same thing with a brand. I think it's a little easier to pivot a brand because we hold brands less accountable than people. It's just how we are.
Yeah.
And so I think not all PR is good PR, but I think there's a way to work with bad PR, and astronomy is a great example of it, that
Mhm.
um, can get you a little bit of a positive in the middle of all the negative.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that's an interesting case because they were able to quickly move. They brought in Gwyneth Paltrow
Yeah,
and had some great, they made it humorous. I'd never heard of Astronomer
me either.
before that, and somehow that name is all over the media everywhere, and unfortunately they lost their CEO and head
Yeah,
of HR over it, but
yeah, exactly. I mean, I don't know. I have not. I will say this: I had never heard of them. I didn't know who they were.
yeah,
I saw all the post things. I thought they handled it really, really well. But now it's
yeah,
been a few weeks. If you ask me today what they do, I'm back to I don't actually really know because that's not my world. But for those
yeah.
people who it is their world, it was probably great and it probably brought them some new business.
Yeah. Okay, so another question that's popping in my head, and I'm sorry, sometimes we go over these questions in advance, but I um,
This is
I
being
don't know if this
proactive.
is, but I don't know if this is a recent phenomenon, but it does seem like it's really been amplified. But the way businesses are participating in political discourse. So, obviously, I don't want to talk about the actual
Yeah.
politics of this, but it sometimes they choose to participate on like a partisan issue that is divisive, and sometimes they're rewarded, and sometimes they're really harmed by this. What are the I mean, it just seems so risky. Do you think it's just the best policy to avoid political fraught topics like that?
Overall, yes, but I think it depends on the brand.
Mm,
I think that if you know your audience, we are such a divided country right now. And if you
yeah.
know your audience is strongly on one side or the other,
Hmm.
I think then you can align yourself a little bit with what the political news cycle is. Overall, I don't think it's a great idea. Again, things live online forever. You might
Yeah.
change, your audience might change, and then that comes back up to haunt you of, 20 years ago, you were on the other side of where your audience is today. I think if you can avoid it, do. but there are plenty of times you can't avoid it.
Yeah.
Because your brand gets brought into it by a decision that you've made as a company.
Yeah.
And I think you have to be able to roll with it. And I think you have to accept what comes with choosing one side or the other. It's very hard to stay neutral these days.
Yeah. Yeah. You're right. And, you know, I think, you know, and I feel for companies that often get pulled in. I just saw there was a news item about Luigi Mangione, and but I'm thinking of the insurance CEO that got killed, and of course that brand is like all over, and
Yes.
and they got pulled into this issue and are dealing with that. So I think it's like, I think I generally agree with you, and that's the approach I've taken with my own agency, is just to avoid the topics. Like I definitely have my own opinions,
Right.
but I've even avoided posting those opinions generally on my personal feeds, just knowing I'm a business owner.
Well, we're seeing it right now. I will be a little political, but we are
Sure.
seeing it right now of people have posted on their own personal feeds, some of them private, that are set to
Yeah.
private, and they have lost their jobs because of what they've posted about the Charlie Kirk killing. To me, that is ridiculous, and it's frankly scary. I should
Yeah.
be able to, in freedom of speech, I should be able to say what I want, especially on my private page, without it somehow coming back to me and losing my job. On the other hand, what I tell clients all the time when it comes to marketing and PR, social media is rented space. I'm not the first to say this. I do not
Yeah.
own Facebook. I do not own Instagram. I do not own TikTok or X or any of them. What I put on there, they own. And so if I want something to be private, email it, send it in my own private way to my own private people, is the only safe way to be right now, which is a scary, scary day that we're living in. People should be able to speak freely and not worry they're going to lose their job.
Right. Well, yeah, and one aspect you mentioned too is you can delete a tweet, but those can they've always been archived,
Yep.
and it's frightening to see the public opinion has shifted on a lot of issues and in chunks, and some opinions that maybe you felt like in the 2000s or 90s
Exactly.
are on their head right now, and it's just. I agree with you, and it is that balance, though. It's like even though you have free speech, you can't necessarily guarantee that you won't lose customers over a certain statement,
Exactly.
and
Exactly.
which is quite
Which,
frightening. And
if you're going to lose customers over a statement, that's one thing. That's your business. I think,
yeah,
though, if you're going to lose your job over something that you've posted, and especially these ones where people have literally quoted his own words and lost their
yeah,
job over it,
sure,
we're
yeah,
getting into a really dangerous time now.
yeah, yeah. It's true. It's true. And hopefully we'll just culturally course correct,
Exactly.
and realize that this is not a fit for a free society.
I mean, I think there's a very different it's very different to say I'm not going to shop at Target anymore because they removed their DEI policies and I don't agree with that. That's my
Yeah,
personal choice about that
sure.
business. But to say, you know, Jane Doe is going to lose her job at Target because she posted that she doesn't like their DEI policies, that to me is a bigger problem. And we're really crossing a line there.
Yeah, yeah, it's true. Yeah, and yeah, that seems to be the issue of our day, is like what is what is really protecting free speech, and obviously like that's tough because I mean you could argue if you're in a certain business where like care and hospitality is really important, that maybe you shouldn't come off as mean or
Right.
cruel or partisan, period. Like I don't know, but it's tough. It is tough.
Well, it's even those things you see, like videos that people take of someone at their job not having their best day.
Yeah.
Even that to me, in my opinion, is invasive. I didn't ask
Yes.
for you to film me. And I feel like in general, social media, and weirdly, TikTok to me is a bigger part of this because it's come more since the growth of TikTok, of these videos blasting people right and left and everywhere
Yep.
in between.
Right.
And at some point, it's got to stop. I mean, I don't know. I just think that it's not creating community; it's creating divisiveness for no reason.
Yeah. Yeah. And it does seem so spiteful,
Yeah.
like maybe a crime was committed or a wrong was committed, but we do actually have ways to deal with that don't involve like public shaming, and like there's ways to rectify it without like also just ruining somebody's reputation.
I
So
agree. But I want to go back and be perfectly clear that I feel like when it comes to the political part, which is where we started
yeah,
this, I do believe people should be able to say what they want to say freely about politics. That's supposed to be what our country is, one of the things our country is about.
well, agreed. Well, so just to go back to PR for a moment, a lot of people in my audience are smaller and mid-sized businesses. So one aspect of PR is that it does stand as distinct and separate from marketing, and not every small business has a full roster of every business division. And how should, first of all, how should a small business structure their, whether it's time or team around marketing and PR, just to make sure that these activities both happen, that the one isn't done at the expense of the other, and how should they prioritize that time?
I think that um, when it comes to figuring out where your priority is, it goes back to where I started, which is where is your audience? So, is your audience listening to podcasts? Then maybe you look at pitching podcasts. Is your audience local? Then you want to look at local media. Is your audience national? Then you want to look at national media. But more than that, what you want to look at is have a plan and how does everything work together. So if you're going to say something, pitch something to a national media, make sure that whatever that something is also on your website correctly. And I'm a big believer in starting with what you own because that's where you control the message and you control how and when and how often it goes out. So it's your website, it's email database, it's direct mail, it's print ads, things that where you can control the message, start there. You and I talked a little bit when we met about email and how I told you a story. I came from a radio background, and
Mm-hmm.
in radio, back when I was working there, on your car, when you plug in a radio station, there's P1, P2, P3, P4. And we used to say that the biggest fans of our audiences were P1s, meaning they programmed that station first. They wanted to hear that station. Now that doesn't mean they only listen to that station, but that's where they went first. And the equivalent to that, in my opinion, is signing up for your email. If I've given you something of value, my email address, I want to hear from you. I've asked to hear from you. I am a P1. Treat me special. So give me the news before you give other outlets. Give me promo codes that other people don't have. Reward me for opening up. Reward me for sharing. Building that relationship then lets those people spread the word about how great your product is to other people, and you grow from there.
Yeah. No, that's great. That's very helpful. Now, a small business, and we've seen this work really well before, will take on an approach to PR or marketing to, do like guerrilla tactics, do something that with a small team or small resources can have a big impact or get a lot of attention. Do you feel like there are some easy guerrilla tactic type approaches that small businesses could utilize, without a huge budget? Anything that comes to mind?
I'm not a huge what traditionally is considered guerrilla marketing person, simply for the fact that it's a flash in the pan. It doesn't necessarily have longevity unless you have a plan that you're launching with this guerrilla thing, and then you're going to spread it forward with other plans. But if you're small, you typically don't have the money or the manpower to keep that going. So you have this big flash, and then what? I think depending on your audience, I think you're better off being multiple small things than one big thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. No, I like that. And I do think, to your point, I think PR is kind of a long game, and consistency is rewarded, and I think that's exactly right. But potentially in combination with a long-term strategy, you can try some splashy things.
Absolutely. And I think one of the things with splashy things too is partnerships. I think if you can work with another organization or brand or something that gives you a little bit more oomph. Again, back to my radio days, one of the programs that I created that I think was great in terms, not patting myself on the back, but I think it was great and it was created for small retailers, was a package promoting shopping in a particular neighborhood in Chicago. So all these different retailers could buy into it to afford this bigger package and get more oomph. And I think when you can do that with other partners and do a big guerrilla marketing thing. So let's say you're a new ketchup brand and you partner with the Oscar Mayer Wienermobile. That's going to get you a lot of eyeballs because you can work with that partner. But maybe you've done something for Oscar Mayer's charity for example, as the ketchup brand, so that Oscar Mayer is getting something out of it too.
Right. But you might lose the Chicago dog purists
exactly.
on that.
Exactly. There's always somebody you're going to make mad. So
for those that don't live in the Chicago area, it is verboten to use ketchup on a Chicago dog.
Unless you're a child, and I have a child.
Unless you're a child. That's right. So for businesses that are making decisions about PR, making plans, what role do you think the founders or executives should play? A lot of people take a more disconnected approach, or more like our company statement is X, versus, or a spokesman approach where they hire somebody very dynamic and charismatic, TV friendly, more so than the founders. What do you think is the best role for founders and executives in PR today? Do you think they should be the face of the brand?
I feel like I keep saying it depends a lot, but I think it does.
No, it's fine.
And you hit right on it. Some people are better spokespeople than others. And we go through this a lot at my house with my son, who there are different kinds of smart, just like there are different kinds of being able to speak.
Yes.
And some people are better spokespeople than others. And so if the founder is not the best spokesperson, let's say it's a very technical company and the founder does not know how to speak something that is not technical about their brand and their business. That's not who you want as the spokesperson, because in general, you want to reach a broader audience. So yes, bring in a spokesperson, but train the founder on key talking points so that if an outlet really does want to talk to a founder, then that founder is prepared and ready to go. I do think it also depends on who the founder is. I think if the founder is somebody who is already successful in that industry and this is their second company, for example, then you want that founder speaking because that founder already has a following, is already well known within the industry. If it's a first time founder, I think you could go either way. I think it'll really come down to how well does that founder speak about the business in a way that normal people can understand it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's great. I've when I've been running this agency, and I'm obviously very small in scale, but I have noticed a real shift when I started recording this podcast, for instance, and putting out YouTube videos and putting my face on there. I think it really positively impacted our brand. I'm, not to my credit or anything, but I think just to not be such a anonymous or a faceless brand, we just have a little bit of an identity and a voice, for good or bad. I guess for people that like spokespeople that say and a lot, then I'm your guy.
I'm right there with you. I'm not usually the person on the camera. I'm usually behind the camera. No, I think that's true. And honestly, when I do some social media as well, and people like people. So images and videos that include people always do better than ones that don't. I think it just depends on who that founder is. Some people are completely not comfortable in front of a camera or a microphone or whatever it may be. Other people are perfectly comfortable or could be trained to be. And it kind of a little bit back to our political thing too, in that if you have a founder who is known for a very divisive side of picking a side, you might want to consider whether or not you want that spokesperson or them to be the spokesperson. If that's where your audience is, go for it. But if your audience is more mainstream and in the middle, I wouldn't do it.
Yeah. That's good advice. So let's touch on the marketing world a little bit. We've seen so many innovations in marketing, and I think largely driven by technology, AI and others. But we know that things are shifting fast. Are there, in light of all of that, are there marketing strategies you like that you think should be emphasized more for many businesses? Maybe some that you don't like?
I already mentioned email, whether it's email newsletters or a funnel system. I do really like that. I do really like keeping your website up to date, and making sure that you're adding new things to it periodically to get people to come back there and giving them a reason to go there. I like those one-on-one touch points. I also like live events. If you can have a representative at an event where your audience and your buyers are going to be, go. Yeah. People like people. And we are still 5 years later in a post-COVID world of connecting with humans. And when you can do that, it makes a huge difference. I mean, all of these are very small scale, and compared to a big splashy event. If you have the means, hosting a big splashy event can be great, or sponsoring or speaking, all of that. Again, most of your customers, I think, reader and your listeners are B2B. And I think that those B2B events are so vital right now. And people really do want to build those connections in person.
Yeah. That's definitely been my experience. If anything, the importance of that kind of face-to-face, one-on-one communication just seems to be really increasing. Well, Jen, this has been great. I feel like you've got a lot of great insight into this world of PR and marketing. And if people would like to work with you, where can they find you? Where are the best places to find you?
I swear I'm more creative than this, but my business is J Peterson Marketing.
No, that's great.
So you can go to my website, jpetersonmarketing.com. Okay, perfect. I do have social media pages, but as you and I discussed, I am the cobbler in the shoe kind of person. Do as I say, not as I do. I'm terrible at keeping them up to date. So just visit my website, or you can email me at jen@jpeterson.com.
Perfect. Well, I will include those links in the show notes. Jen, thanks so much for joining and sharing all this wisdom about PR and marketing. And it's been great to get to know you.
Thank you for having me.
Want to stay ahead of what's actually working in marketing right now? Head over to MarketSurge.io and see how we're helping businesses grow smarter, faster, and louder. That's MarketSurge.io, because your next breakthrough shouldn't be a guess.